That sounds like Pistol Pete and Dirty Ray from the Bret Michaels band. I will tell you about it later. It was rough. Well, I want to go to our guest because I'll say this. He supports the troops. That's a good thing. And I used to be the biggest Bret Michaels fan. Not saying I hate him, not hating on him, just things change. All right. Before this becomes an after-school special, let's get back to newsworthy events and a man who is in demand, junkscience.com. He is the junk man, director and founder of junkscience.com, the man who challenged Al Gore to a debate on the environment and the claims that Al Gore was making. He declined, obviously, that being Al Gore, and he has written a great-selling book, which is called Green Hell, where he outlined pretty much what President Obama's doing and has done. And we're grateful because we need the truth about things that are very complicated, like the environment, global warming, man-made global warming, as well as climate change. Steve Milloy joins us now. How are you, buddy?
It's great to be here, Crane. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. I just wanted to begin with President Obama's statement today about a smarter government, and he mentioned O-Power, and I think, well, let the clip speak for itself. Here it is, cut number 9, roll it.
And what's happening is entrepreneurs and business owners are now using that data, the people's data, to create jobs and solve problems that government can't solve by itself or can't do as efficiently. So there's a company called O-Power, for example, that's used open government data on general energy trends and weather to help families save more than $300 million on their energy bills.
$300 million on their energy bills. This is using the data that they're outlining and putting out online where we can have access to and businesses can have access to, where we can get those great business-government partnerships that work so well. And Steve Milloy, O-Power. Tell me about O-Power and smart grids and saving dough.
I'm not aware of anybody who's making tremendous savings from energy efficiency. That is one of the great myths of the last 30, 40 years, energy efficiency, because usually the technology costs more than the energy you save. And energy efficiency really only makes sense if you have a special need, like you can only carry so much fuel and you're going to Mars or something like that. That's when you really need to be energy efficient. But when it comes to just conventional electricity and in your car, usually it costs more to save energy than the energy you actually save.
All right. So when we hear electricity prices are up higher than they've ever been since its measure, and President Obama, I played a clip at the top of the hour in 2008. I know you've referenced this clip, talked about this clip, and written about this clip, not ad nauseum, but certainly to inform us all about the real plan, which was a war on coal. Tell me, what do you think about the current state of our energy markets and specifically the price increases we're seeing?
Well, price. We're going to be faced with price increases because President Obama has this war on coal ongoing, and whether or not he can actually push regulations through EPA is almost beside the point, because what he's been successful in doing is actually creating uncertainty. And he's created uncertainty for utilities, and that is kind of making them be gun-shy about making further investments in coal. So they're investing in natural gas. Unfortunately, natural gas can be kind of volatile in price. Even with the gas glut we have going on, it can be quite volatile. About a year ago, natural gas was about $2 per million BTUs, and now it's $3. And that's an increase of 50%. Coal is not nearly that volatile.
Okay.
So to the extent that our president forces coal out of the utility energy mix, we're going to be faced with higher electricity prices.
All right. And we've already seen higher oil prices and gasoline prices, and for the extended amount of time, the new normal. I don't believe this has to be the new normal, but I want to ask you, is it, and does it have to be? Are there policies that can bring us back to under $3 a gallon gasoline? Steve?
Well, no, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I don't know that gasoline will ever go under $3. I mean, it's possible. When President Obama became president, the price of gasoline was about $1.80. Of course, we were in terrible economic, circumstances at the time. But what we could do is, in addition to more drilling, obviously, and increasing the supply, but also, and probably the key bottleneck is really refining. I mean, we have to often import gasoline, which can be very expensive. And, if we get hit by a storm in the Gulf Coast, we wind up importing more gasoline, which is expensive rather than just making it on our own. And, of course, then you have the various EPA requirements, all the boutique fuels. Every part of the country requires a different fuel, which also increases the cost of gasoline unnecessarily because it's not improving air quality anywhere. It's not saving anybody any money. It's not, not getting better gas mileage. We're just paying more for gasoline, and EPA keeps pumping out new rules that cost more.
Okay, and that's a problem because regulation does cost. But they use the idea that we are in close to a catastrophic meltdown, breakdown of our environment if we don't take drastic measures. Right. And they even use every event the left does on this. Members of the left certainly do, to exploit the fear. Most recently, Tom Hartman, liberal commentator, blamed the deaths of the firefighters, heroic firefighters, on, well, here it is. Roll it.
When those brave firefighters are laid to rest later this week, their funeral costs are most likely going to be paid for by their family members. And that should not be the case. Because it was the fossil fuel industry in this country that killed these men. And the fossil fuel industry should be responsible for paying for their funerals. These deaths are just the latest example of the overwhelming negative externalities associated with America's addiction to toxic and dirty fossil fuels. A negative externality, this is fancy economic speak. It's a cost borne by all of us that was produced by a private entity and then dumped on us.
So, Steve, referencing the heroes that died in the Arizona wildfires,
right.
What do you make of that? If you were sitting next to Tom, what would you say to him?
It's just a childish comment. Mm-hmm. It's not tethered to reality at all. We have wildfires. They are caused by a combination of drought, poor forest management, and then either a lightning strike or someone dropping a match or doing something careless with fire. It's got nothing to do with climate change, and there's no science to show that, and no scientist says that. Just folks like the childish Tom Hartman.
But the president. Okay, yeah, but the president ties disasters to the fossil fuels, the use of fossil fuels. So we have people doing this. Have you seen a shift in the debate or the discussion or the information threshold when people make these ridiculous comments that people go, okay, you're gone.
Well,
bye-bye.
I have because, although the president made his, through his climate tantrum 2 weeks ago, when you have people like Tom Hartman making these crazy statements, the fact is, they're becoming more shrill because, warmism or global warming alarmism, whatever you want to call it, is really kind of failing at the box office. No one's buying it anymore. Mm-hmm. And they are becoming more shrill. And every bit of bad weather now becomes global warming, whether it's a heat wave or a drought or a rainstorm or a hurricane or whatever. We even have new terms now, superstorms.
Yes.
The tornadoes in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. They'll use, people just aren't buying this anymore. Now, that's not to say that, folks like me have to stop, monitoring and working and, countering these people. But, the shrillness is happening because their message is not resonating anymore with anybody.
You referenced the climate change speech or the climate outline, and you went through and you talked about the myths on your website, junkscience.com. And in Green Hell, you detail what is happening and has happened and what the vision is for this. And if people think it's going away, it's not, because they keep bringing it up, because it will control every aspect of our lives, as you control the means of production. And that's what you've been saying, isn't it, Steve?
Right. Well, that's what the whole purpose of this radical environmentalism, and especially global warming alarmism, is to for the government to grab control of the economy. We had this big debate several years ago about Obamacare, and that was 16% of the economy. Okay, well, energy is the other 84% of the economy. I mean, everything depends on energy and how it's used and where it's used, who gets to produce it and how it's produced. These can have dramatic effects on our economy, and so global warming is the way for the left, big government types, to grab control of our economy by dictating who can use energy, where, when, and how much it's going to cost.
And people need to read Green Hell. People need to go to junkscience.com. And they need to do that because this is not going away, as I said. They're going to keep coming back, and you want to arm yourself with the truth. I will post one of the great articles from Steve, recent post on junkscience.com. But, Steve, we appreciate you coming forth, because don't go away. Stay there, because they're not going away, and I know it's no surprise to you. It surprised a lot of people that he came back with more climate stuff, but it didn't surprise you. So we appreciate you, man.
Okay, Crane, thank you.
Thank you. You take care. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. On the flip side, oh, yeah, the temperature of the Earth, flat, last 15 years, yeah. All right. I'll talk about Bret Michaels' concert, The Troops, and much more on the flip side. AFR Talk.